Hi, and welcome to Always Bring a Book. I'm Craig. On today's episode, I got to interview one of my favorite horror authors, Rachel Harrison. We talk about her new book, Kiss Slay Replay, time loops, women in horror, and surviving in the world of publishing through strong friendships. I hope you enjoy the interview. Stick around afterwards for a sneak peek of our next episode. Thanks for listening. Today I am joined by Rachel Harrison, the New York Times bestselling author of over 6 novels, including Such Sharp Teeth, Black Sheep, So Thirsty, Play Nice, and the upcoming Kiss Slay Replay that comes out in about 2 months on September 8th. Welcome to the podcast, Rachel.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I know we're still a bit out from the release, like I just said, but don't give anything away yet. But what can readers expect? What is this book about?
So, Kiss Slay Replay is a time loop horror novel that takes place at a wedding. Our protagonist, Willa, has just called off her own wedding, and so she's just starting over and sort of in a strange place. And she has a close group of friends from college, and 2 of them are getting married. So she goes to the wedding, and at first it's pretty tough because her ex is there with his new girlfriend. So she's really going through it. And then she meets Danny, who's the groom's like childhood best friend, and they start flirting, and she thinks maybe things will turn around. But they don't, because a masked killer shows up and starts slashing his way through the wedding. So Willa dies, and then she wakes up again the next day and is trying to figure out if she had a terrible nightmare, or if it's weird deja vu, or she's having a mental breakdown. And she goes back to the wedding, and the horrors persist from there.
I actually didn't read the synopsis of this first. I just went in blind because I like to do that sometimes with books. So I was reading this, and when the masked killer shows up, I was looking at my e-reader, and it said I was only 27% through, and I was like, what the hell is the rest of this book gonna be about? Everyone's dead. So then when it went to she wakes up in her bed, I was like, oh, okay, I see where this is going. So most time loop stories are built around like the repeating the same day over and over with the same problems. And without spoiling anything, you really flip that on its head, having Willa face a different horror each day. What drew you to that approach instead of a more traditional time loop story?
So I'm trying to stay super vague about how everything unfolds, but I think it was important for me to focus on anytime that I tackle anything supernatural. I really want to focus on keeping the book grounded and um, focusing on character arcs and emotions and things that hopefully readers can relate to. I think it elevates the horror and supernatural elements when the rest feels very real. So really my approach to a time loop was I needed to make sure that Willa, my protagonist's state of mind, was changing, that she was not stagnant as she went through every loop, because I think that would be boring. I needed to focus on how she interacted with people, how her relationships changed, living this day over and over again, how her feelings changed, what kind of mood she was in. And that really helped me keep it from feeling too repetitive. I mean, I have the like classic time loop stuff where it's like, I know what you're about to say, like all those fun little nods. Because I don't think you can tell a time loop story without it. But I wanted to have it feel real and fresh every time because Willa is changing. And also, I think a lot of time loop stories, it gets to the point where whoever's in the time loop will start to like do crazy things and take all these wild risks because they think, well, the day's just going to reset.
Yeah.
And as somebody who has pretty severe anxiety, I'm always like, if I was in a time loop, the one time that I steal the car or like set something on fire, that's the time that the loop sticks and I'll be in jail. Like I can't, I would not be able to cut loose in a time loop. So
That's
I
so
wanted to
funny.
put that in
You're
there
too
too.
anxious to have a good time in a time loop.
Yes, exactly.
I love that, and it really worked for me because you know when it first resets, I'm like, oh, is this going to be this over and over? And at no point was I bored or like it doesn't feel like it's repeating at all. And like watching her grow through the different loops, and you know the way she approaches, you know, the first meeting of like you said, you know, he brings his new girlfriend there, like the way she approaches that change. It's really really interesting. I really like the approach.
Oh, thank you.
You mentioned, you know, like traditional time loops, and were there any books or movies that you know, revisited while writing? Like I immediately thought of the obvious ones like Groundhog Day or Happy Death Day, but I'm curious, where were you finding inspiration for this?
So I'm going to admit something to you. I've never seen Groundhog Day.
Just like the character.
I know. Um, but I, some of my favorite time loop stories, Live, Die, Repeat, Edge of Tomorrow. It's the Tom Cruise movie, and Emily Blunt. And it's like a sci-fi action movie, and it's actually very, very good. I love that movie. And have you seen Palm Springs? It
I was
has,
just gonna bring that up when when
yeah,
you mentioned that something was funny. That's the Andy Samberg time loop movie,
yes,
right? Yeah, yeah.
yeah. Both of those are like high up there on my time loop. Um,
How I'm sure you
story.
get this all the time when you say that, but how have you not watched Groundhog Day, especially with writing this book? Was like your editor or your friends being like, you have to watch that movie. Like,
Well, I think when I came up with the idea, I didn't want sort of any time that I have an idea, like even when like if I'm writing about vampires, I have to like really think about like, do I want to immerse myself
mm,
in these stories or do I want to like take what I know and put my own spin on it? Because for me, I think there's a danger if I like dive too far in that I'm going to start overthinking things and then be like, oh, well, I can't do this because this did that. Like, I didn't see Happy Death Day until after I finished.
I was just gonna say, now that you're done, are you gonna binge any of these? Like now that you know that it won't, you know, taint your idea pool or anything?
I, for some reason, like, again, and Willis says this in the book, but like, I just don't really like Bill Murray. So I don't know if I could wrap my head around him being like this romantic lead. Maybe I would eat my words. I feel like I have to watch it at some point.
At some
Um,
point, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I love that those little Willa moments are just you. It's amazing.
Yeah.
She's I love her as a character. I mean, this rings true in a lot of your books, but they're, you know, scary, but they're bitingly funny, like the inner monologues of the characters, and I was really excited to see that happen here too.
I feel like everybody approaches scenarios with a humor for the most part. Like people I know, you know, we crack jokes in dark situations to make ourselves feel better. So, and my characters, like, they don't know they're in a horror novel. I mean, Willa eventually figures out that she's in a horror novel, but it
Yeah,
takes her a while to get there.
yeah. What is that? If you don't laugh, you'll cry.
Yes.
Like, yeah. Um, Last question about Kiss Slay replay, because again, I don't want to dive too deep, unfortunately. As someone who just finished it like yesterday, I would love to, but you know, for another day. In the acknowledgments for this one, you thank Lucy Carson for making all my dreams come true and for telling me that this was the idea, and Jessica Wade for always knowing exactly what I want the book to be and helping me get it there. And I loved that sentiment. And I don't one, can you tell me a little about those relationships and you know what did they bring to the book?
So I'm very lucky because I've been with my agent and my editor since the start, since my first book, The Return. And it's interesting. Usually, like, I will have the idea and be like, this is the idea before I bring it to my agent. And this time, I pitched two different books before I pitched this one. And Lucy is very good. Lucy, my agent, is very good at being able to like sense when I'm excited about something or like when something has potential or when I'm just like not quite there. And so both of the previous ideas, she was like, I don't think I don't know about that. And luckily, I mean, one of them was a Tradwife book. So thank God she was
Oh
like,
my God. You really, I mean, you dodged a bullet with that one. The 2026, the year of 200
I
Trathway books.
and they're all so good. I can't imagine if I was up against all of it. So
I've read a handful of them already, and I'm open for more. I finished Saratoga Schaefer's and
I
obviously
love that one.
Yesteryear. Yeah, I'm so excited. I have them on the podcast, and I think I'm recording like a week from today with them, so I'm super excited about
Oh, I can't wait to listen.
that.
So and then Lucy, when I pitched this idea, she was like, yes, that's the one. Like, that's the idea. Like, I think she could sense the spark in me. I think she could, like, had the sense of the market to be like, I think there's potential here. Um, and so she's just very good at like letting, if I came to her with something and I was like, no, I need to write this trad wife book, she would be supportive. But I think if I'm still wishy-washy and stuff, she's able to read me enough to be like, I don't know about this. So I'm very lucky to have her um, support and guidance. And then my editor, Jessica Wade at Berkeley, we have a very, like, she just, every time I give her a book, she comes back with feedback where I'm like, oh, yeah, obviously. Like, of course, if I could tell before, she wouldn't have to give me the feedback. So, like, but it's just like she can see where I want to go, but I can't get there myself. I can't get there alone. And she's just very good at like being able to see the potential in things that I maybe like certain blind spots that I have. So um for this book I'm trying to think like she really helped me hone in on Willa's journey and like where she is at the start and some of the logistics that I'm bad at. She's very good because she also edits fantasy. So she's very much like, well, what are the rules? Like, how does this work? Where I'm just like, what do you mean? How does it work? It's just there. So um I'm very grateful that like she pushes me to like think about things more critically and tie up loose ends and be a little bit neater. Um so and I mean I'm working on my eighth book right now with both of them. So it's just, I think it's interesting. Like some people early in the life of a writer and the career of a writer, where you're looking for an agent or you're looking for an editor, I think we're so desperate to find them that we can just maybe say yes to anyone. And it's really, really important to like think about those relationships early on as a writer because they inform so much. Like having a good agent who advocates for you and supports you and having an editor who gets your vision, like it all hinges on that. So I'm very, very lucky.
Something I also love about your books is that they're rarely just about the monster. Like they're about friendships and loneliness and anxiety and family and all that. And I read in another interview that you said, in all my novels, it's always more about the human thing than the supernatural thing. And I feel like horror, both in books and film, have really expanded beyond there's a scary guy with a machete chasing you with, films like The Babadook and Depression or Talk to Me and Grief. And, why do you think that horror is such a good sort of vehicle or a powerful way to explore these deep themes?
I would think, I'm like, do I have an answer for I feel like I should have an answer like this on the back burner that I can just whip out and sound smart. But I think it's everything in horror is turned up. Like all of the emotions, everything. You just turn that dial as far as it will go. And I think that there's something very freeing and cathartic about that. And it's a way to say the things that we might be too scared to say otherwise, or like show the harsh truths that people might not be willing to hear unless it's through the lens of like, well, here's the Babadook. And we're talking about like depression and motherhood and these complicated feelings. To have that other thing there, we don't need to say this is what this movie is about. We can just kind of let the art exist and people can come to the emotional resonance and come to that truth sort of in their own time and space. And the art can exist. It's twofold. Like somebody could watch The Babadook and be like, that's a terrifying movie, which that movie terrifies me. The Babadook terrifies me.
Yeah.
Even though he's a fabulous gay icon now, like this still like that just did nothing to like curb the terror. Um, I or somebody could like sit with the movie and be like, well, actually, this is saying something really profound. And I think horror is very effective because it can work on multiple levels and it can express things that might be otherwise difficult to express bluntly, and we can kind of wrap it in something else. It's the same, like I think of Obsession, which just came out, and everybody, it's a phenomenon. And I think that movie is saying a lot about toxic relationships and love and but if it was just a film about that, I don't know if people would see it. But they want to see it because it's scary, and that's it's like it's like a reverse Sour Patch Kid or a Sour Patch Kid. Sour, and then you get something else if you think about it.
Yeah.
That's my
That's
very eloquent. I need to like come up with something
no, I like it.
more eloquent to pull out when people ask me that.
That makes a lot of sense. I really do like that you can watch The Babadook and be like, this is just a scary movie about like a creepy thing that it crawls on the ceiling, or you can look at it through the lens of, like you said, motherhood and depression, and raising a kid alone and all that. Like, it really can be what you want it to be, and you can explore those really difficult themes in like a, I don't know if safe way is the right way, but like I've always, horror lets you kind of feel scared in like a safe environment. And
It's a safe place to feel big feelings because it's fiction. So you can go in and sort of have this test of your emotions, or I think a lot of anxious people are drawn to horror because it's like, well, the world tells you like, don't worry, the bad thing, like don't worry about the bad thing, don't overthink it, blah blah blah. You go into horror and it's like, no, sometimes the really bad thing happens. And I think there's something kind of validating about that, to be like, see, it can happen, and sort of have that mental exercise of being like, well, what would I do in this scenario? And like, and a lot of time in horror, it's very hopeful because people fight to survive. Horror stories have a lot of heart and fight in them. They'd be very, very short if, the final girl's just like, oh well. Like
I guess it's my time to
yeah.
die. Oh man, I'm glad you brought up Obsession. I totally agree. That's a really good example, and a really recent one, and also a movie that I loved. So, me and everyone else I know.
Yeah.
um, Speaking of horror, it feels like we're living through this really exciting moment for women writing horror. Obviously, women have always written horror, but writers like you and Sylvia Marino Garcia and Mona Awad and T. Kingfisher and tons of others are really pushing the genre in exciting new directions. And what do you think this generation of writers is bringing to horror that maybe was missing, or wasn't getting as much attention before?
I think women have always been writing horror. I think they just haven't really had the chance or the opportunities to thrive in the genre. Um, and it's very cool to see the genre open up and have um, more of a variety of stories to be and perspectives, um, because there's a certain limit for of that we have in our own experience. So, you could do research and like really try to tell a story from another perspective, but there's certain things that you might miss. So we need people who have those different perspectives. We need their voices to tell their stories, to represent the, you know, their histories and their fears and their monsters and all of that. And so it's a really exciting time to be in the genre because I think it's very um, willing and, I mean, uniquely positioned to open up to those stories. And there's I'm trying to think, like, it's really hard to pinpoint, like, when the tide started to shift,
Mm,
and obviously there's still more shifts that need to happen, but, like, I think really in the last couple of years, um, and it might be because things have been so grim in the world over the last couple of years that more people are turning to horror, and because there's an appetite for it, um, publishing is a business, so they're like looking for more horror stories, and it's sort of just this like fortuitous moment of the world opening up in an interesting way. But I am grateful that it's happening, and I hope that it keeps happening. And really the only thing I can think of is why it's happening is because of the state of the world
mm.
and has shifted the hunger for horror, and the people who have horror stories that most need to be heard are finally, finally being heard and given platforms. So I hope it continues, and I want to push for it to keep on happening because I think it really helps for people to see themselves in stories.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I completely agree. It is amazing, and I hope it keeps continuing. I'm sure it will. I feel like horror, not just for female writers, but in general, is just having the biggest moment right now with Angel Down winning the Pulitzer, and Obsession making 500x what it took to make, and it just feels like horror just keeps plugging along, which is great. Um, Last question about horror, but I had Paul Tremblay and Eric LaRocca on the podcast before, and I've asked them versions of this kind of same question because I'm fascinated by what feels like this cool horror friend group that's emerged. And you thanked all of these people in your acknowledgments as well, but you, Paul, Eric, Nat Cassidy, Clay McLeod Chapman, and a bunch of others all seem super supportive of one another. And you mentioned coffee and lunches, and how invaluable these friendships have been. And like I said before, writing is sometimes described as solitary or even lonely. So how important is having that community been for you, both creatively and personally?
It's truly like invaluable. Like I met Clay in 2019 before The Return came out, and he's just been in my corner since day one, and it was hard. It's hard, like publishing. I think publishing is more lonely than writing because publishing, like putting your work out there and like publishing is a business, and your work is your art, and it's you're bearing your soul. And I think having to reconcile with both of those things can be pretty difficult. So having other people to talk to about the industry and about those feelings and about like, oh my God, my book's coming out and I'm so nervous. And to have somebody there who understands, like, I don't think mentally or emotionally I would be able to do this without that support. And then also, like, I love, I love Eric. I love Nat. Um, they're both incredible friends to me. And Paul has gone out of his way to help me and give me opportunities. Um, and blurb my books and talk about them, and like get me invited to events that have helped me get more visibility. So, and Paul's my hero. I'm obsessed with Paul's work. I just and just the greatest guy. I really like aspire to be like him, in uh what he's done in his career, and who he's been in the community. So, um I think it really, if everybody sucked, I wouldn't do this, you know what I mean?
Oh, that's so awesome. I feel like they both had similar answers around like how invaluable it is, and it warms my little horror heart. I love it. Um, do you have like 2 more minutes? I know we're at
Of
time.
course, yeah.
Okay, great. I always like to end these with a little kind of sillier questions after talking about like the horror genre and all this kind of more serious stuff around the industry. So I want to ask you a couple of really quick ones that you don't need a an eloquent answer for. They can just be kind of quick.
Okay.
Um, so you've done werewolves, vampires, haunted houses, and more. Is there any horror tropes you want to explore next?
I would love to do lake monster, like an aquatic monster, like a lake monster or like a river monster. I don't know, some sort of aquatic monster.
Awesome. Which of your books do you think would make the best movie?
The Return. I would love to
Mm,
see The Return as a. I just want to see I just want to go to the hotel set that they built.
that would be, I think, probably the scariest of them too, by the way. Like her like transformation throughout the book. Like, oh God.
I think that's the one that's to me because I went to school for screenwriting and that was my first book. So like it's very much like I took my screenwriting brain and just like put it into the novel.
Uh,
So to me, it would be a pretty easy adaptation to make. And um and it's the most like straight genre. Like they wouldn't have to, you know, I get kind of annoyed because people are like, she writes horror comedy. I'm like, no, I'm just funny. Like but I think The Return is the most like you cannot say that is anything but horror.
yeah, totally. Oh man, I would love to see that movie. If you had to write a sequel to one of your books, which one would it be?
Probably Such Sharp Teeth, because I kind of have an idea and I love those characters and I miss them very much.
Yeah, plus there's, as much time as you want can pass basically. So,
Yeah, exactly.
um, which of your protagonists would you least want to be?
Willa, I mean, she has the worst time of all of them. I mean, they all have a pretty rough time. I mean, maybe Elise. Elise kind of is a killjoy, but
And then what book are you currently reading?
I'm currently reading this book called Body Count by Cody Crowley, and it is about like prom weekend in Wildwood, and the protagonist's name is Sunday Valentine, and she has like this history with um, this creepy ghost that lives in the pool of this motel that like lived in when she was a kid, and now she's back in Wildwood. And I'm not doing it justice, but it's a very Jersey Jersey book, and it is so much fun. And like, you ever read a book and you're like, this was written just for me? That's how I feel reading this book.
Oh man, I'm gonna add it to my to be read list that is ever growing. So thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm sure you're super busy, heading up to the release, so I really appreciate it. And I know Kiss Slay Replay is still a bit out, but is there anything you can share about what's coming up and any tour dates or events or other exciting projects that we should be watching out for?
Yeah, so I'm touring in the US and the UK, which is crazy and very exciting. And all my tour dates are on my website, rachel-harrison.com/events. I have my dates there and links. And then, yeah, I'm really excited for the book to come out. It's like a fun one to talk about. So it's annoying that like trying to keep spoilers under wraps, but I'm excited for people to read it. And yeah, and I'm editing the next book, which has I'll just tease like a little ghost emoji for that one. Yeah, it's been great talking to you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much. Thanks for listening to that episode, everyone. Rachel's new book, Kiss Slay Replay, comes out in just over a month on September 1st in the US and on the 8th in the UK. So make sure to either pre-order that or run to your local bookstore next month to grab it. My recommendation and our next episode is for the author Hallie Elizabeth Newton, whose debut novel, Agnes Lives, just came out this summer. The book follows the title character Agnes over the course of 24 hours in 2014 as she seeks a willing murderer for herself. The book is written in an extreme stream of consciousness POV. I don't want to say too much more since we discussed the book at length in our interview. So go grab that book and keep an eye out for the episode in the next couple of weeks. Thanks for listening.